Welcome to another Automation Ladies live demo. We've got all three of us online today, which is amazing. I was actually thinking that maybe I would have to miss, which would have been a huge bummer because I'm the one that missed this demo at Automate in the first place. And the reason that we decided to bring Dan and Octoplant onto Automation Ladies to show the demo to me as well as our audience at the same time. Why not, right? We do try to get the most bang for our buck here and our time since we don't have a whole lot of it, which is another reason why we love to do these live demos. The people can watch on their own time without pressure from sales or without having to be qualified as a potential customer, to just get the awareness out there from the technology provider perspective. And for us curious engineers that may not have an immediate use case or any budget or be in the buying cycle, we can watch cool tech demos with no pressure from salespeople. So today we have our wonderful guest, Dan Topley, a pre-sales engineer at AMDT. And AMDT is the company, and then Octoplant is the software that we're going to be checking out. And just a little bit of background there. We've seen them around. And Karen from their team reached out to us ahead of Automate to see if we could stop by their booth to see a demo. And like always, I always run out of time to do the things I want to do at Automate and most other trade shows. But we made it by, and I made it just in time only to grab a couple of their super cute plushy octopus toys for my kids. So I think about Octoplant quite a bit here at the house every time I see those. So great choice on the giveaway, guys. It's always good to give something to people's kids if they have them.
Glad to hear it.
Also, their booth is super cool. Like, it was like a cafe with like hangout spots, with plants, which you don't see this right now because I'm upstairs in the office, but sometimes I do Zoom calls from home. And house plants are kind of my hobby, my only other non-work related activity that isn't my kids or work. So they really have a vibe that I appreciate. And I didn't have time to see the full demo at Automate, but Allie and Courtney did. Or Courtney, did you see it as well, or was it just Allie that got the demo?
I didn't see the whole demo. I saw chunks of it.
Okay. So Allie saw it, and she said that was cool. And yeah, so Allie, do you have anything that you want to preface this with? What you thought of it when you saw it at Automate?
I thought it was cool. I was like, if Dan doesn't show up, I can sell it. No, I'm just kidding.
You guys should contact Allie to sell Octoplant if she does think it's cool.
We'll have our people call your people and
okay. Our people get together here. We've been thinking about, like maybe if there's a way for us to make some like affiliate revenue off of these demos or something. Eventually we should try to make money with these things, but really we just do these because we're super curious. And I know a lot of other people in our community are also super curious. So with that, Dan, do you want to introduce yourself and AMDT and tell us why you think we should be interested in seeing this stuff?
Certainly. Thank you. Great intro. So yeah, Dan Topley here. I'm a technical pre-sales engineer. Just to be clear, I'm not a salesperson, so I'm more of a demonstration person in this case. I do a lot of technical research and software demonstrations, answering security questionnaires, cybersecurity assessments from prospective customers, that sort of thing. So we have multiple roles, multiple hats, but this is something that I do quite a bit, parts of this demo. So hopefully it will reside well with you, and you'll get what you need out of this, and the people listening will enjoy it as well. So with that, I will kick it over to the slide deck here. You guys ready?
Okay. Yeah. I would also actually like to ask though, when did you join AMDT? How long have you been around there, and what drew you to the company in the first place?
I actually, a long time ago, I used to work for a software company, basically doing software quality assurance, so testing software, breaking software. And then later on, I ended up in a company called Vondelanda, so large integrator. You might have seen them around some of the shows too.
Know them.
And so I worked there for a few years, and then went through a layoff and ended up at a robotics company and worked there for a little while, and then ended up here. And at first, I was kind of hesitant to go back to software. I enjoy the the physical aspect of seeing, the controls and the robots and the conveyors and everything else that we get to see.
Yeah.
And when I heard that it's very well aligned with that, we work closely with those customers that have all those things, integrators, partners, you name it. I was pretty excited. And it's a really good product. It's a really good value proposition. So yeah, I think it has a great use case. And you'll see there's some slides in here that'll show you kind of how broadly we are used. So
Okay.
be
You
impressive.
still get to go and see stuff in plants in your
Occasionally
role
we
as-
get invited
yeah.
along for site visits. Yeah.
It's nice, right? I also kind of left. I used to be a sales engineer with the sales part, not just the
Sure.
engineering part, but I really enjoyed going out to see all and solve all these problems, like on the floor or whatever, or in the lab. And then I went into software, and
Yep.
software can be really exciting. Also, you can solve a lot of really exciting problems with software, but eventually I really missed like seeing actual physical stuff. So it's really nice when you get to, get a little bit of that mixed in to keep you from going like, I haven't seen anything physical in so long, like sitting at your desk. I know
Yeah,
I miss it.
absolutely.
Gotta jog a robot.
Right? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Well, let's bring
absolutely.
your slides up. And then I also just want to give a quick shout out to, I'm not sure who gave a very cool comment here. I think it's so cool when people have logos that can be expressed as emojis, because it just is a built-in, like, what a great tool for you to be able to just use an emoji and that it represents your logo. So I'm assuming that maybe this is an Octoplant or AMDT employee, but because of the privacy settings, we can't see who you are. So if you want to write your name and let us know, go ahead. But then everyone else, if you're here, if you joined us, please tell us who you are, or say hi, or tell us where you're coming from. If you've ever used this before, say something like whatever, what this is, or just interact. It makes things more fun. Feels like we're not talking at a screen. So with that, let me bring up these slides here.
All
There we
right.
go.
Fantastic. So yeah, I mentioned my name's Dan Topley. So I'm a pre-sales engineer. To answer your earlier question, Nikki, I've been here about 1.5 years now
Okay.
with this current role. Been working in various aspects of automation for 10 plus years. So not new to it, but just constantly seeing new cases where we can help, new environments, new customer stories. It's pretty neat. I'm going to jump over here to my next slide.
I think it also really helps to have some cross-functional industry experience, rather than, not to say there isn't value in having been in one role or one organization for a really long time. You end up gaining really, really deep like knowledge on a certain product or a certain group. But especially when you provide technology solutions like this, having actually been on some other sides of the fence, right? It really ends up giving you a little bit broader perspective to know how you're fitting into your customers' problems or, overall solutions.
You definitely see some of these scenarios that I'll pull up where production failures happen for different reasons, and it'll really strike a nerve for a lot of people listening.
Whoa. Hey, we got Tony Leroy joining us here. Thanks, Tony. He just did a really interesting post on HMI versus SCADA that, of course, got some controversial comments. He writes quite a bit of good content coming from a systems integrator perspective, I think, on LinkedIn. So if you guys don't know him, you should follow him. Albert Fernandez. Hey, Albert. Glad you're joining us. We got Sanchez. Hello. I don't know them together, so you should sometimes that far.
Yeah.
And Albert said, did skill. Yes, he's an guy that ended up working on OT, but now he's one great IT guy that gets your OT, which is something that they done in any school or whatever. You kind of have to figure out blending those skill sets kind of on your own. And then Karen, if you want to, that's Karen from AMDT. Whenever you comment, just put your octopus so that we know who you are. I think that about solves this. Cool. All right, let's look at this slide here.
Yeah. So, when we started talking, you asked me kind of how long I'd been with the company, but also a little bit about the company history. We've been around a while. You can see combined experience of over 55 years. So back in 1987, MDT software out of Atlanta, Georgia, started out with a product called Autosave. And so that was
Okay.
kind of the grandparent, if you will, one of the original products. And for 20 years, they just really created a product that backed up PLC programs, gave people a way to restore those programs and get production back up and running if they ever failed. And then from there, AVC was the way to say it. It stood for Automated Version Systems, and that was out of Germany. And they had a product called Version Dog. And so those two were always going head to head. They had really similar products, similar, product offering coverage for support for devices. And then in 2021, they were both scooped up by HG Capital. It's one of the largest investment capital groups in Europe. And so they basically said, you're now obviously AMDT. And after a while, we shortened it just to AMDT. I joke around just because people can't pronounce obviously or VC. We'll just call it AMDT. It's easier for everybody.
I was wondering though, what the heck does AMDT stand for? Because Octoplant is descriptive and it's the name of the software. And then, then your booth, when you look you up at a trade show, all your booth branding is Octoplant, but then you have to look at AMDT, the name. And now I'm going to go on a tangent, and I'm sorry, this is my show, so I guess but I was just thinking about this. I wrote a post yesterday about I got this gig when I was in high school to format somebody's PowerPoint presentation. And I ended up then also redoing a logo for my dad. And then I started doing a lot of graphic design, not for the sake of graphic design, but to aid in whatever job I was trying to do, formatting data sheets and doing marketing material and stuff. And my dad's company, I made his logo. It was called Atlantis Data Systems at the time. And then he had a parent company that kind of bought him out or brought him in, and it was called Trackwell. And so they shortened the name to Trackwell ADS, and ADS stood for Atlantis Data Systems. So internally, it was there was a reason, and it made a lot of sense, and we wanted to be differentiated. We're not the parent company, but we're this Trackwell ADS. But everybody that reads it looks at it, it says Trackwell Ads, right? And it's we're a fleet management solution.
Yep. I can see that.
But we get telemarketing calls all the time from somebody thinking we're an ad agency. And my dad being an engineer and not a business person, to him, it stands for something. It makes sense to us. Now, at this point in my career, I was just thinking about it yesterday. I was like, man, what a fail that it took us 8 years to change that to just Trackwell Inc. Because we thought that there was a reason to hang on to the acronym. Not to speak in any way ill about AMDT, but from a market perspective, Octoplant, super easy for me to associate, figure out what it is, remember it. The AMDT part, not so much.
Not so much.
It's so
now
common
it's just truncated.
Legacies to just live on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I joke too that my initials are finally in the company name. I've got DT in there, so we've got got position of high power there. But the real reason it's called Octoplant, the software though, is it's because there's 8 key value propositions that the product has. So we have a slide for that, and it kind of breaks it out with the 8 arms of the octopus. So that's the idea. But we have currently over 3,000 customers worldwide. A little over 240 employees at the moment. 6 out of 10 of the world's largest manufacturers currently using us. We're huge in automotive plants around the world. We're doing pharmaceutical manufacturing, just all sorts of things. I'll show you a couple of cool slides, but and then we also do sales through direct, but we also do it through channels. So channel partners that can be, trained to implement and support our customers also. And so that's a pretty neat thing that we offer up. Here's a kind of a logo slide, just one of our, bragging slides. Some of our big names that you probably recognize, a bunch of those. The longer you look at it, you'll see more. Everything in there from Audi and BMW and Jaguar to Mercedes, the automotive side. We've got Caterpillar, we've got Amazon, Siemens, SpaceX, you name it. Procter and Gamble's in there, Lego, you name it. So that's just a small piece of it, obviously, but those are some big ones that you'll recognize.
So what we would call end users, right, or plants are really the customers, because they're implementing this for all the technology that they have in their plant, regardless of what it is, right?
For really any kind of manufacturing automation customer facility. Absolutely.
Okay.
So our main goal, our marketing strategy this year has been really to talk about production resilience and how we can help you with that. So what is production resilience? Just a quick, easy slide. The ability to quickly adapt to disruptions or unplanned events that could threaten operations, people, brand, or reputation. Okay. And, I
So
mentioned
cybersecurity, I can imagine, is a big part of that. And what you really have to plan for is what is your OT specific, what was it called? Now I'm trying to reference Ashley's messaging. Incident. You have to have an OT specific incident response plan, as in how do you get back online if your OT environment is held ransom, disrupted, whatever, right? So this, exactly. I'm sure, plays a really big key part in that, is getting right back online if something like that happens.
Correct. So this is, device recovery, restoration. That's really where we started. That's the core product itself. Version control, change management. So we've got all those covered. We've got the threat protection piece here. You've got basically business intelligence as well. So we've got some reporting tools, being able to see, which of your devices have been backed up recently, which ones maybe failed or had an issue during the backup process. Which of your projects or programs are being edited most frequently? Are there locks in place preventing other users from accessing those? We can help with compliance. We can help with operational efficiency in a lot of ways by, helping eliminate downtime or reduce it severely. And then obviously that, like I said, instant recovery piece is a really big deal. So those are kind of the 8 core, legs of the Octoplant product there. And then this is something that I think Nikki really liked when I showed her this at the trade show, at the Automate show in Detroit.
Allie, but I love that people mix our
sorry,
names
I just said it. Yeah, I was looking at you.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry, but
it's okay. I learned actually. Sorry, I'm going to interject again.
Yeah.
Now my knowledge of one of my special interest topics, which is neuroscience and learning about the brain and stuff like that. The reason that we mix up, like, you would think that, if you mix up your kids' names, like, how do you not care enough that you actually know which kid is named what, right? But it's not that. It's that we we put people in buckets in our brain of like where they're stored by the type of relationship that we have with them. And so if you mix up your kids' names, it's probably because you love all your kids a lot and they reside in that same area, which is like all the people that I care about intensely, which is why sometimes if you really love your dog, you may call your dog your kid's name or vice versa. So the fact that if Allie and I get exchanged with each other in somebody's like mouth, it really just means that we reside in the same part of your brain, and that we're interchangeable, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, doesn't mean you don't care. That's just how our brains work. We take shortcuts all the time, unintentionally. So proceed. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was good. Okay, so I mentioned back in 87 they started with the PLC backups, but this is where Octoplant has grown and continued to advance the breadth of coverage for devices. So SCADA systems are now covered. We've got HMIs, robots, sensors, CNCs, VFDs, intelligent field devices like cameras and scanners and those sorts of things can be backed up. Switches and routers. We've got IPCs in here, and you can even save programs, configurations. Maybe there's some unique build box that isn't even a product anywhere. You can save that program or that project file at Octoplant and just use it as a repository for anything you need. And then lastly, documents is probably one of my favorite features of Octoplant. Is kind of overlooked in a lot of cases, but not only can you store anything in Octoplant, but we can give you some really advanced comparison features and functions with Word documents, PDFs, and Excel files too. And we don't charge anything for that. It just comes, out of the box, as they say. So it's a core function. And then with Octoplant, it's a software product, and so the main 5 functions that we would use day to day, or you would use as a customer, would be the ability to back up, the ability to quickly restore your projects, your programs, using the checkout, check-in functionality, change detection. So we allow you to schedule automated backups, and we can actually inform you when a change has been found on a device. And so that's important for a number of reasons, but cybersecurity being one of them. Just, unauthorized change from an employee could be one. So it's a really big feature there. And that kind of ties back to risk mitigation as well. And we do have a cybersecurity vulnerability tool as well. It's kind of unique. Okay. So with that, I've got a couple left, and then I'll jump into the product for you. So basically, some of the major issues that we see in automation across all the different types of customers that we obviously talk to each day, change management is definitely one of the toughest things to handle. There's so many different device types. There's so many new brands, new models, connection methods, protocols used. And these things combined with the employees making changes and doing things on their own, it's just a lot to cover. And there's not very many products out there that can cover even a small portion of all of the devices in that way. It's something that we really pride ourselves in being able to do so many. The little frame on the right there, 70% of industrial firms experienced a cyber attack in 2023. And in 2024, that was over 85%. It's just continuing to climb. And so it's something that we know, and you even mentioned, it's definitely a hot topic. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse. So that's why we do what we do. And just basically the grand list of threats to production resilience. I mentioned human errors. Even if you have an approval to make a change, maybe you just made a mistake. You fat fingered something. You typed it in a wrong character, and it closed the valve, or changed the position of the robot. Those unapproved changes, absolutely. Lack of traceability. We've had customers come to us because they had no way to tell when something actually was changed or modified in the past. And that's a huge one. If they have to roll back or do a product recall, for example, it could be hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of several months if they have no clue and they're just guessing.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. And then you've got employee turnover, of course. So, you've got your experts that live on the plant floor for years. And then when they leave, they take all their knowledge with them. They take their thumb drive with them. And it's like, what happened to that backup? What happened to that configuration? Oh, Jimmy had it. Jimmy's gone. What do we do? So
what about in cases where you buy a piece of OEM equipment and the OEM thinks that the PLC program is their IP and protects it? What does an end user do in that case?
So we can kind of look at some examples. We're typically going to back up the projects that are written to run on the PLC, and provide some insight onto, say, firmware updates and that sort of thing. We do have the ability to connect to password protected devices if you enter the password, and obviously feed that to Octoplant so it can make the connection.
Yeah.
But there are obviously some limitations there.
Okay.
So, I mentioned cyber attacks. That's a big one right now. Natural disasters is another one. So just in the last year, we've seen everything you can imagine, right? Hurricanes, flooding, forest fires, and it's just pretty much everything under the sun. So, let's say your site gets partially burned or damaged in a storm, and some of the equipment gets damaged. You ship in new equipment. You just pull the projects, the configurations back from Octoplant, and you're up and running a lot faster. And we have seen that to be the case. Okay. So I'd say those are the all-stars. And I'll get into this a little bit more with our business intelligence, but we do have a couple of options for deployment. So we can do it site by site, individual site deployment, or we can do kind of a combo where you can link up multiple sites and have an enterprise look into those individual plants and how they're performing, and look at those backup tasks and performance of the system.
Cool.
Okay. And I'm just going to flip my screen off and then back on again real quick. So actually, I may not have
Anyone in the audience have any questions at this point? Let us know. No, otherwise, we'll dive into. And it won't be, we have about roughly 30 minutes. It's not going to be a fully comprehensive demo, but we always think, honestly, it's just good to kind of see the interface, get a feel for what things are doing. And I'm pretty sure, like you said, you do these demos all the time. So you've got a pretty fluid, or you're used to showing off the stuff. So.
Yep, exactly. All right. So I do have to reshare. 1 second here.
Yeah, no problem. Jonathan Vincent, howdy. I'm assuming that maybe then you're around Texas as well, but Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
And there we go. Let me know if you can see that.
I sure can. There we go.
All right, perfect. So we have a few main core components for the product, and this is the user client. So this is going to be the most frequently used application. Octoplant at its core is a central repository. It's a server. It would be deployed at the physical plant location, on premises. Okay. And then this client would be installed on an operator laptop, a workstation, somewhere where controls engineers have access to make edits to programs. Maybe they're using RS Links or they're using TIA Portal or something like that to make their edits. Mm-hmm. And so this would allow them to check out programs, make those changes on their machine, and then, basically upload those back to the central server. So I know there's a ton on the screen. I like to just kind of take a step back and walk through the UI a little bit, and I'll start up here in the top left. But basically, these are your main 4 workflow buttons. So your checkout, I mentioned this would allow you to check a program out from the server. It'll import it into your client archive, which is here on my C drive. You can see that path.
Okay. Yep.
Once you have it locally, you can click on the Open with Editor button, and this will basically launch your native editing software application based on the file extension. So you use the editor, you make your changes to the program like you normally would, and then you save and close out, and you return to Octoplant. You'll hit Create New Version. So this will kind of launch a side-by-side comparison of the prior project that you checked out to start with and the new version that you're checking back in. It'll show you kind of graphically what is being changed, give you a preview, and it'll let you leave comments and change request ticketing information and some other insightful pieces at that stage. And once it's all ready, you can check it back in. So then the rest of your staff, your employees there at the site can access it from the same server as well.
Okay.
So it's a pretty straightforward process with those buttons, and you can obviously do those right-clicking in different places and following the same menu. It's pretty easy.
I feel like this ribbon style interface is going to live for a while until we come up with something totally new. But I don't know, maybe what was it, 5-10 years ago that this was new? And slowly, most softwares kind of switched over to that, because also as you grow in functionality, having all just the drop-down menus for everything, right, it gets super cluttered. So I think the contextual ribbon is still a pretty good choice when it comes to user experience. It's also very common now, right? Most people know it from various different software products and Outlook and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's real common. And we tried to keep it uncluttered, just the basic, the functional things that you really need up there. So it's not too clunky. So on the left-hand side, we have our project tree view. And you've probably seen plenty of those in different applications, right? Similar to the ribbon. But I pointed out for a couple reasons. The first one being that I'm actually using a free 30-day demo environment that you can download from a website for this tool, for this demonstration. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, and what the first reason I'd say that, because we can actually configure this, you can build it out in any kind of format to match your actual production lines or your production environments. And this is just kind of a example set of projects and data types that we can show you really easily. The other thing here is that all the icons are basically grayed out right now. And that just means that I don't have any of those checked out from that server yet. They're not present locally. So these PDFs I have checked out. I like to just point them out because they're bright red and it's easy to spot. But we have some cool features around that. Now, over on the right side, this big pane, it's just really showing everything I have access to from my client archive. In this top right section, there are a couple of equals indications, and these are pretty important. So I mentioned that Octoplant at its core it's a central repository, a server. So that's where you would store your known validated versions of projects, offline in a safe place. And then the other piece of it is that we allow you to schedule those automated backups. So if you scheduled a backup, say every 8 hours, this is just showing you that the last time this ran 8 hours ago, the backup and the server version are still equal. And so that's what you expect to see, right? That's what you hope to see. We could also show you a difference in blue or an error in red, just at a high level. If you look to the right of that, there's another equals, and this one is basically the prior 8 hours. So this is really like a 16-hour time frame saying let's compare the older backup with the most recent backup. Was there
Okay.
any change there? So it's kind of nice. There's much deeper reporting than that, but it's a good from a user interface perspective just to know what you're getting into on your shift, let's say. Now, I know Rockwell's a really popular product here in the States, especially, North America as a whole. So I usually jump into a Rockwell example for my demo here. Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah.
All right. So it's the RS Logix 5000 project, and we've got 5 versions available on the server. So number 1 being the base version, up to 5, the most recent. You can see if we had any tags, they'd be here. Tags are reusable, so you could say maybe a vendor came to visit for 2 of those and made updates, and you want to tag them in it. You could kind of sort and see quickly which ones those vendors were responsible for, just as an example. You've got your date and time stamp information, your username that's tracked for who created all of these and uploaded them. And then we've added a workstation field so you can even track the computer they checked it in from. Change requests. So this is great. You can actually put in hyperlinks in this field. So if you had a Jira ticket or another external tool, where you're tracking those changes and scheduling those tasks, you can just hyperlink straight out of Octoplant right back to that. The comments are probably the most important on the screen, though. This is pretty neat. Admin users can actually set a requirement or a character restriction. You can force users to leave you a 30-character comment before they can check in a new version.
Okay.
I think that's a great feature for a lot of people out there. If you've ever programmed or looked at any code from anybody, right? Comments are critical to know what's going on and where. Now, if you have a version highlighted here, like I have version 5 selected, the latest and greatest, it's going to give me a preview down below of the differences between that version and the previous version automatically. Okay. So you can see right in the program where the changes were detected, and there's 2 rungs different. I like to show that that's a preview. That's pretty neat, and it's very fast. So if you just want to click through 4 versus 3, you can see there's 3 differences. 3 versus 2, and so on. But you can actually select any of these and make it a compare partner, is what we call it. And then you can go back to an older copy and say compare with set compare partner. And then this will launch. I just want to make sure it updated on your screen. It looks like it did. You guys able to see that okay? I know it's kind of small.
Yeah.
We're basically launching the versions side by side graphically now, and we're showing you right in the project file where those changes were made in red.
Oh, so, now actually, never mind. Wait, are you seeing? Okay, check something is possible. No, or I think we may not be seeing the update. So let me remove this and put it back, because sometimes.
Yeah, let me try to reshare. I think when I open a pop-up, it lost it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I checked. Let me see.
Yeah, we had once a really cool guest brought like a PowerPoint presentation of about her project that she wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. But like every time she changed the slide, it wouldn't advance on the screen. It probably didn't help that she was in Africa and the connection was not good. But that was probably one of the most challenging lives we've done, because we had to every slide we had to like bring it back on.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do that a couple times too.
Which is why I tell people with these things, hey, just everybody gets credit for doing this live, because we all know some crap is going to go wrong.
It's inevitable.
And so you just have to expect that. I think we, at this point, all know us tech people get the tech stuff wrong a lot, because it's not our particular area of expertise of tech. But then, yeah, we happen to, of course, have technical difficulties all the time. Like we thought we did a live demo a while back. There was a Google outage. So StreamYard didn't work at all. Like we tried to all come into the studio, and literally there was no studio. So I was like, okay, back up. We'll go live in a different software. I had never gone live with it before. But it told me, I set it up and it said streaming. And so we thought we were streaming.
Uh-oh.
And it turns out we were not.
I finally got it. All right. I appreciate that.
There we go. Okay. Yes. Now I see 2 columns. What you're describing makes a lot of sense.
Perfect. So for those of you that maybe missed that, I just opened up a comparison of 2 versions of a project. And so there are multiple, changes here captured. I'm just looking at the first page.
Okay.
We're looking at the values file. So it's not the most glamorous example, right? We just got, it's basically a table view, but you can see in red text, Octoplant is actually highlighting what's changed between those program iterations. And so it's really easy to spot, even if this was hundreds of rows or columns, we would highlight it and show it to you. We give you a summary at the bottom of the page here on the bottom left that says how many differences are found. It's pretty nice. But, more than that, you can actually click through and look in the actual project in its native format, which, for a lot of people that may not even know ladder logic or, structured text or library blocks, they can still come in here and understand, hey, there's a value that's changed. I can even look that up myself and see what it means at a level and ask a semi-intelligent question about what's going on. Why did you do that? What's the difference between this and this? So you can mouse through here. You can zoom. We'll highlight changes if they even are captured in the comments up top. You can export these to PDF. You can save them externally. You could export basically a printout of or PDF of all of the different changes in one go, or just do it page by page, whatever you prefer. So it's pretty powerful to be able to look through those. And since I switched my share method, that works way better. Okay, so you guys can still see.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I'm also just going to throw this up. It's in the comment, guys, but we have some resources being shared. So links, there's tutorials there that are available, and then link to the test version, the 30-day free trial.
You got it.
You guys, if this is interesting to you, click that link and give it a try.
Absolutely. It's really the 30-day trials designed for one user to kind of have an all-in-one test environment to play with it and get used to the UI. You can configure it to actually run backup jobs. I would just say, because it's kind of a watered down trial version, not to go crazy with that and try to hook it up to a full plan and run, 30, 40, 50 jobs or more.
Okay.
Just keep it realistic.
Yeah. Plus, if you only got 30 days, so what's the point of setting up all, the whole thing if until you know that you're sure that it actually is something that you want to continue with, right?
And on that point, it just because of the way it was designed as a trial environment, it's not designed to ever be extended or fully licensed. So if you did set it up as a test, you can't get a different license and make it the real iteration.
Got it. So you would start it again with a real license if you were to then purchase it.
Yeah, we would do like a full implementation. It's kind of a multi-day process rolling out with the customer and really walking them through the whole thing. So
yeah, I would assume it's not a whole DIY thing if you really are setting it up for real for your actual plant.
Yeah, we're flexible. Like some customers are so tech savvy that they can handle it, but for a first time person that's never used the software or any of our older stuff, I would say definitely use our team for that. That's
okay.
We have
you do, you offer that assistance, right?
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's when I read, I ended up seeing you guys somewhere on Reddit, maybe, but somebody mentioned the version dog and how common that was as well. So I'm sure a lot of people have experience with the older versions of the software from one of the two companies.
Exactly. Yeah, version dog, it started in Europe, and it was just, like I said, a competitor to the autosave product. Yeah. And they're all over. We're still converting people to Octoplant from the older products today and talking about doing it for some people next year, just trying to get it all on the same, iteration. But
us in manufacturing, if it's not broken, don't change it, don't fix it, don't upgrade it.
Yep, it doesn't always move very quickly, that's for sure. Yeah. This next piece I'm going to show you guys is really it's the advanced comparison feature, showing the differences in files. I mentioned we do that for documents as well. And I think this is pretty neat because if you try to get buy-in from different teams at your site, maybe even finance or somebody in project management, whatever, you can store these documents in one repository and kind of make that case easier within the company. I was honestly
thinking, I don't do PLC programming. So I get the concept of it and it makes a lot of sense to me, but it's not like I have the experience of backing up a PLC program. But the general idea applies to almost every system, document, software, anything you use to set up that can be changed. And I thought to myself earlier, I thought of an example recently where I write the same version of a report every 2 weeks. And at some point I saved that report with a new name, but it was the old report. And then I could not for the life of me find the new report. That Allie remembers this. I was freaking out for like a day or two because I lost the entire. I had sent what I thought was the new version
I
to
think
who
we've
I
all
needed
done
to
that.
send the report to. And then when I actually read it later, I was like, wait a minute, this is a 2-week-old copy. And where the heck did my new copy go? And I couldn't recover it and I couldn't find it and I couldn't figure out like how that happened. So yeah, this kind of thing like applies to so many other use cases.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's really kind of an underrated feature set here, to be able to not just store it, but be able to look at what changed, right? And us highlighting it, 2 docs side by side, really the same document, just different versions of it, and capturing where margins were adjusted and text was added or moved. That's a great example, but that's just a document. Let's say that let's say you make something in ePlan, you export that to PDF, and then we can zoom in and we can do the same sorts of things. You can see module names, text, measurements that were changed. It's pretty neat.
Contracts. Okay. I don't know if I think this is Karen chiming in here, but I'm going to have to come with another example.
SOPs, you name it. Manuals.
I know someone that had their company acquired and they had their lawyers look over all the paperwork and they redlined it and so on. And then when it came time to sign, the acquiring company switched out the docs. And it was in the fine print somewhere, the things that got changed, right? And they didn't read over the entire document all over again in the signing stage because the lawyers, they'd already paid lawyers to review it.
Yep.
And they're currently in court right now dealing with this because they basically signed stuff that they thought they had reviewed, but they had not, they ended up signing something different. Yeah. And like when you have huge documents or contract documents or whatever, being able to just quickly glance and see if anything got changed, that can lowers your risk in a huge way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. We just a funny story that anybody listening will enjoy that hasn't heard this before. But we had a customer come to us and wanted to just buy a license for our product, not for the automated backups, not for the version control, the core functions of the tool, but only because they wanted to do those offline comparisons. They wanted to look at 2 files, whether it was a PLC or a SCADA program or something else or a document. And they literally wanted to just use it for that. And they'd apparently been using our free trial for a while. Okay. And they said, we feel guilty. We're going to buy it now. And we're like, we're not complaining, It's a great tool. So,
I mean, and honestly, value is really relative, right? It really depends. Because I was going to say earlier, this is a really cool feature for things that I need, but I probably wouldn't be able to justify the cost for my use case. But that is such a subjective thing, depending on what your use case is and what value that use case has to you or what risk it's preventing, right? So,
100%.
I thought back to also Wintech, I sell HMIs and we sell headless HMIs. Mm-hmm. And I found that some people buy those and they don't use the HMI functionality at all. They use them for protocol gateways because we offer we have drivers for everything. And you can do as much protocol conversion as you want in the HMI program. And so some people buy them, they're more cost effective than buying a protocol conversion gateway. And they don't use the functionality that it's the core functionality that we're selling this as an extra. The fact that you can do protocol conversion to us is it's another added benefit. But for some, that's enough of a benefit just to buy the product, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you really shouldn't assume what your customer's use case is or how much it means to them until you understand what's in it for them or what is the cost of that problem that you're potentially solving.
You got it. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see. Every day is a new example, a new scenario. So I like that. Yeah. I'm going to jump over here for the sake of time. So basically our business intelligence, our reporting tool, we've got 2 flavors right now. I say flavors. Some customers are completely against outside network access. They're air-gapped systems. They don't want any cloud components anywhere for any reason at all. Mm-hmm. And for that, we have a reporting tool presently called the Hub, and that's for on-prem installations. So just local access, basically. And then for those people that don't mind it so much, and a lot of people are going more and more back to cloud, it seems like these days. Yeah, we have this tool called the Pro Hub, and really this is more I think, pretty to look at. It's got more customizations, better graphics. It's got some additional features that the other one doesn't have at the moment. So I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. But this is, when I say this is cloud-based, this is not your server. This is not the programs and the project backups. This is only the business intelligence. This is just the metadata, the reporting metrics about how that Octoplant system is working. And it's
okay. Yeah. So none of the actual data resides in this, just the reporting about those items
exactly
or the behavior. Got it.
perfect. Yep. And that's a really, important thing to clarify for people. When they hear cloud, a lot of times they just go, "Oh, I'm signing out. I'm not going to listen to this." So you have to be careful.
No, we do the same thing. We have a cloud dashboard product that just aggregates data from different HMIs into one dashboard, so you can like see joint metrics and that sort of thing. But like, it's not going to have your HMI program on it or have control of the HMI program on it either. It just gives you the information. So you can kind of pick and choose how much you actually bring to the cloud, right? And I think this is kind of one of those scenarios where very low risk to bring some reporting to the cloud, and you're not actually giving access to your systems.
Nailed it. Yep, that's exactly the idea. It's just kind of a way to give people at maybe a different level within an organization, a different view of how things are running. They can't actually manipulate programs or check them out or check them in or any of that stuff. But in this example, I've kind of drilled it into a report for you already, and it's basically, we call it the shop floor compare. And so this is great for if you have an enterprise site or a customer looking with multiple plant installations and multiple facilities, and they want to see how they stack up from a performance perspective. In this case, I've got an assembly plant on the left from Germany and an assembly plant from the US on the right. And for my demo, I always like to kind of throw this out there that these are mirror sites. They're making the same product, just maybe overseas. Their automation landscape is really similar, physically speaking. But when you come to Octoplant and you're looking at the reporting here, the one in Germany, even though these are the same size sites, this one has about 3 times the number of devices that are being backed up automatically. And so my first really red flag there, right, is that this site is not covering all of their devices. So if disaster happens, they could lose a lot of things, just not being real smart about that. The second thing, though, is basically the equals value here is only 44% at the German plant and 66 at the American plant. And what that means is that each time the backup job runs, it's trying to look to make sure that the program running on that device is still equal to what is on the server and what you expect it to be there. So 44% of the time means people are making a lot of changes directly on devices, but they're not checking in that latest project iteration back into Octoplant. So they're not really covering it that way. And we had a customer story, and I'll keep it very generic and short for this purposes, but they came to us because they had a major loss of about $100 million in product from a recall. Somebody made a program change, shut a valve, and an ingredient was no longer put into a specific cleaner. And that cleaner was sold for several months. Over 5 million gallons went out the door, and they had no insight. They had no way to know that this change happened at all. And what happened was the vendor showed up to refill this specific chemical vat. And they said, did you fire us? And they were like, what are you talking about? Well, dude, it's still full. And he said, well, what do you mean? And they went and looked, and it was still full. And he's like, did you guys replace me? And they're like, we don't know what's going on. And so they panicked. And we got a new customer out of that later on. So first of all, we would have notified them each time that backup was run if a change was found. And even if they ignored those emails, saying that we detected changes on this device yesterday at this time or last week at this time, however long they ignored it, the next thing they could have done was come here and just follow the trend line back. And maybe last month everything was smooth sailing and the green was real close to 100% flat line. But here you can see that blue difference line just creeping up and up and up. Maybe you've got some upset employees at you about to quit, or somebody's hacking in and changing parameters on you. These are all pretty big warning signs. So be able to just visualize that. It's pretty helpful. We also show you, the errors when Octoplant fails to run the backup. You can see, devices that are not compared, and that's really a setting change that somebody made. And maybe you turn it off for a while because there's some maintenance, and that's intentional. but it's nice to have a reminder to turn it back on, when it's ready. And then the last one, not present, just means that nobody ever checked in or created a base version of a project in Octoplant. So it's not a requirement to do that, but if you have a scheduled automated backup, it's going to run, and then it's going to try to compare that backup with what's on the server, and there's nothing there. So it's kind of like you're halfway set up. So that's the idea for this view, and I think it's really powerful to see, site by site, and you could even compare two areas of the same plant with each other, which is pretty cool. The last couple of things I'll jump to real fast. We use the same metadata, for those reports I just showed you, but we can also provide customers with an asset inventory. So, and I don't know if either of you or any of you three have ever had to do this, or anybody listening, but we've heard from customers that it takes somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes per device if they have to go out to the shop floor quarterly or annually, connect to a device, by a laptop, open up a spreadsheet, and then track this sort of information, manufacturer name, model, firmware, that sort of thing, and put it in a sheet. Just walking, location to location to location, and putting that in manually takes forever. And so if you had 500 devices or 5,000 devices, you can see, how much time savings that would be if you could just click and drill in and see exactly how many of a specific component you have there at the plant, where they're located, what firmware they're running. Mm-hmm. You could filter because there's some end of life product, just as an example. And you need to order some new maybe you're switching to Schneider from Siemens or Rockwell. So you can drill in and you can see exactly the path to those devices based on Octoplant's config, and even see what they're controlling if you have it all labeled and set up appropriately.
Does the end of life information is something that the customer needs to enter, or does that reside somewhere once you know what the device is and pick it within Octoplant?
Yeah, I kind of use that as an example. So we don't really tell you end of life at the current, product iteration. But I meant if you had a report from a vendor maybe that said, yeah, we know that these are end of lifed, and trying to make you aware, then you could enter here and filter on it and find out exactly where they all are and how many you have to address.
Got it. Yep.
So maybe not the best example. Thank you.
That was good. Well, I mean, it's a good use case, but just understanding, how much of that you still have to be responsible for or think about, because unfortunately, I think still too many people don't have inventories of that, and they may have an asset inventory, but they don't have any end of life information attached to it, and so now they're ordering parts off of eBay or whatever because they didn't plan for obsolescence ahead of time.
Yep, that's actually like the third time eBay's come up today. Totally accurate. So the asset inventory is powerful and it's a good time saver, but it's just a small piece. We can use that same information, that same metadata, then to parse against the NIST database and check for known vulnerabilities. And so, this Pro Hub is updated once a day from the server at the site. And this is something pretty neat that you can use to drill in based on criticality. Let's say we want to see how many of my devices are at critical threat level from cyber attack, from known vulnerabilities, for example. So we got 66 of them here. We've got one specific model that's affecting all three of my plants. And if you scroll down or you look down below, you can see, the plant location or the server location, the way we have it named, the path. We come over here, we can see the threat scores, a 9.8 out of 10. These are all Rockwell PLCs. There's your model number. That's a pretty common thing to see these days. It seems like I see Rockwell pop up all the time. But then we also give you the link right back to NIST. And NIST is actually a branch of Homeland Security. So they publish these, it's their contracted job basically to inform people. When a vulnerability has been determined, they then inform the manufacturers, but they won't publish this information until a patch has been made available. So they're not just sharing hacks, they're sharing solutions to hacks, effectively. That's the way I look at it. But you can read these articles and you can find the link back to Rockwell's site and also download the appropriate firmware to fix that issue. So that's the core pieces of our product for you. I know that was a shorter demo. We have some other things in there as well. I didn't really show you the check-in process or the checkout process, but
I think that's okay, unless somebody in the audience is here and specifically wants to see that right now. then yeah, we're getting close on time. And this is honestly, at least to me, a really, really good overview. Gets me thinking about a lot of use cases. Now when I run into things that this product may solve, I will know, like unless I actually want to start implementing it, I don't need to see exactly how the check-in, checkout works.
Yep.
But Courtney and Allie, I would love to hear from your side as people that may actually use this. If you have any questions, thoughts, same thing from anybody in the audience. While we have a few questions or a few minutes left, if there's anything burning that you want to say, comment, or question, now's your time.
I've done the check-in, checkout thing before with like controlled version systems and stuff, so I feel like that's probably going to be, for a lot of our audience, pretty self-explanatory. But I do want to say that this cybersecurity threat page was probably the coolest thing that I saw, was how you could actually say like, hey, this actually affects all 3 of my plants. And
yeah,
that's pretty crazy. I like that a lot.
Yeah, on that topic, I thought about something I didn't say. So one of the things that sets this apart from a lot of the other cybersecurity tools for OT out there right now, most of them, there's a bunch, like Nozomi, Tenable Nessus, Clarity, a lot of those tools that are out there, they are network scanners first and foremost. And so they intercept your packets and they can actually cause some bandwidth issues for some plants. And if you've been in automation a while, you know that some plants don't have the best networks and they are really, really opposed to anything that will cause a delay or a lag or potentially crash something. So that's where we're pretty unique in that we're capturing this through the backup process.
Yeah.
We're not actively crawling or scanning your network, looking into things. We're only connecting to the devices you tell us to connect to at the cadence you tell us to go with. So
now, does this though like surface the exact same type of information, or those other products may also be looking for other types of threats that are not just this type of thing, right?
Yeah, so we cover the most in OT device types, and there are some that have some OT coverage, but more are focused on IT, and so it kind of varies. I went to Google the other day, and you guys can try this at home, kids. Just joking around. But if you go out there and you Google search, is Tenable Nessus recommended for OT networks? The immediate response is no, it is not recommended. And it's for that bandwidth problem.
Yeah.
Reason.
If you are interested in learning more about OT networks or becoming more educated on how to design better OT networks, we would all highly recommend a class coming up. I think it's in October from Traceroute. Our friend Josh Varghese runs a 2-day training. He specializes in OT networking, and oftentimes is contracted to help these facilities figure out why all of their bandwidth is being used up and their stuff is not working. And he knows what to look for and how to re-architecture your network to not have those issues. I sat through that class. I can't say I remember all the details. I'm not a person that would implement that, but it was really eye-opening. And he's a very easy person to learn from. It also was part inspiration for our con, OT SCADACon, and he was our speaker for that last year. So again, there are resources out there. There's people, but it's a pretty niche thing to actually specialize in setting up these OT devices for a proper OT network for both performance and speed and all those sorts of things. So if you guys don't know him and Traceroute, definitely look him up on LinkedIn and follow that. And we highly recommend the class. I don't know, Courtney, if you think you might. I know I saw you mention that you might try to make it to the class this year.
I'm going to try if I can.
Yeah, both Allie and Albert have also taken the class.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I got FOMO. I feel like I'm the only one that didn't.
Yep. But very cool. This was impressive. Can you tell us a little bit about the licensing model? Is it per device? Is it per plant? Is it perpetual? Is it recurring? How do people pay for this?
Absolutely. So it is a subscription service. We try to license it by physical plant, and then there's a question of quantity of devices.
Okay.
So there's tiers to that. I don't want to get into it too far here. I know we're kind of out of time, but
Yeah, no, that's fine. But
it's
general
definitely
idea.
something. Yeah. We typically will do some discovery with customers and walk through, what their plant looks like and, what kind of components they want to talk to, back up, compare, have for restoration purposes, but also, sometimes they're only aware of PLCs being backed up, and that's their thought for coming to us. And then we show them all the other things that we can do. So Windows backups and, images, IPCs and SCADAs and all the other things. So it can grow, it can creep quite a bit further than they think, and do some really good stuff for our customers.
All right. But I'm assuming since so many companies use you guys, been using you for a long time, that the ROI is really kind of very easy, right?
Oh yeah. If you think about an hour of downtime in different industries, it can vary from $100,000 in some cases to 2 or 3 million an hour, and maybe more. Pharma can be crazy expensive.
Right.
So yeah, it pays for itself with the single outage, let's say, and then some.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Are there any other resources, Karen, that you haven't put in the comments? You can always come and add more comments later. And if people ask questions, you guys, hopefully we'll be able to come back and check the comments. But you guys should be connecting with Dan, Karen Cropland from AMDT, and anywhere else that people should be going if they see this now or later and they want to find out more about Octoplant. Check it out. There's obviously the link for the free trial. Oh, and then I want to give a shout out thank you to our sponsor for the show. Basically, up until September is SPS Atlanta, Smart Production Solutions, big European automation show that is finally coming to the US. And we are going to be there. AMDT is going to be there. Automation Ladies, WinTech is going to be there. So if you guys are in the Atlanta area or just are able to travel and come to, I think it's kind of a unique show in the sense that the way that I thought about it before I knew it was coming here was that there isn't really a show in the US that's focused on kind of the individual technology that goes into factories or into systems. There's more like Automate is all about all the automation, all of the machines, all of the robots. Pack Expo is obviously packaging machinery, right? There isn't kind of one that's like, hey, show us the inside of just the tech for these factories and these machines and people that are building systems. So I thought it'd be very cool if SPS comes here, and they are. But first time, it's going to be a little bit probably of a smaller show. Bringing it here for the first time, people are just now finding out about it. But that's also an advantage, I think, because you can actually walk that entire show. You could probably also spend a good amount of time with everybody that you want to talk to there. So I would highly encourage people to come to SPS Atlanta if you can, September 16th through 18th, and come meet Dan. I'm assuming, will you be there in person, Dan?
Yeah. I will be there in person. Absolutely.
All right. So people can come meet you. They can come see the full demo, dive into any of the features they didn't see today that they want to see, run their use cases by you guys, all that good stuff. But you tell me if there's anything else that you want that you should get across to our audience before we sign off today.
Okay. Last couple of things on the contract or the license model. Mentioned it's basically done by plant level and then by device count. We offer unlimited installs of agents and clients. Agents are something we didn't really hit on today much, but they can be used to extend the reach and run more jobs more quickly. There's a couple of competitive products out there to us. They don't cover as many device types as we do, but they will charge for agents and often for clients and users and bundles. And we do all that included for free. Support is included in the subscription, so there's not an add-on for that, for ESS or anything. The updates, the upgrades to the product, we inform you remotely that there's an update, and it's actually not critical that you do it. It's like, hey, do I want the new functionality or the bug fix? And you make that call. Okay. So we don't shove that on you and say, do it now.
Ladies, any further questions, comments? Nope. All right. Well, then thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Dan. Matt says, great job, Dan. I'm assuming he's one of your coworkers. And he's going to be in Atlanta as well. So, Matt, I look forward to meeting you, hopefully, in Atlanta as well. And Those of you in our audience, whether you're watching now or later, give AMDT or Octoplant a follow if this is of interest to you. Maybe not right now, but you never know. When you or a customer or a partner may have a need for something like this, and then you can remember that this is one of the tools that you definitely want to check out. So we've had nothing but good experiences with the folks we've met from AMDT, which we care too about the technology, yes, but there's typically a number of solutions that may meet your needs out in the market. And knowing what kind of company, the types of people you're going to be dealing with, the fact that you're going to like calling them or meeting with them, and it's not going to make you cringe to spend some time with your vendor, that's also important. So we love to, introduce folks that we enjoy to our audience and to our community, because I think they would enjoy working or spending time with you as well. So thank you, everybody that spent a little bit of your Thursday afternoon with us. We do plan to try to have live demos most Thursdays, unless we have, some live events or trade shows or things that we're doing that we can't be here. But otherwise, you should hopefully expect a fresh new tech demo roughly every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central on LinkedIn. And that's about it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Thanks for having me.